What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Real Rundown, a show where we talk about everything happening in TV and movies. This week, we're going to review Salem's Lot. We're going to catch up on The Penguin. We're going to react to the Joker reactions and everything else we've been seeing on the TV and in cinemas. I'm here with the homies, Pedro and Paul. What's up, guys?
What's up,
Happy
bro?
October.
Yeah, spooky month.
We're in the month.
It's the spooky month. All month I'm watching horror stuff, and that's all we're talking about is sort of horror movies, Halloween movies. It's a great season to be watching TV, to be going to the movies because all these apps are just like in your face with pushing all these awesome movies. What has sort of hit your screens lately? What have you been watching? What maybe surprises hit like your cues?
Well, you brought up a point. All the apps are hitting you. If you notice, like all the apps, the main apps have this like Halloween
Yeah.
or Disney has like, and that's pretty dope because it just throws all their good Halloween, collections in one spot, and you kind of like siphon through it and see what you like to check out. I
Yep.
haven't really noticed one in Prime. Prime, I've seen they do
Prime
it
is the
a lot,
worst, man. Those guys, they don't know what's going on.
but they got a lot of great content. It's just hidden. It's not well, shown to people.
Yeah.
I wish they did like a Halloween section. It's just you got to look through the horror and that's it.
I feel like Max is finally getting their app together, even though you really have to scroll down to the bottom. I like the top 10 that they do, top 10 TV shows, top 10 films, and then they do really have they have a really good Halloween collection.
Yeah.
Um,
Stay up, no stay up or something like that.
the what?
It's like the Max one is called like Don't Stay Up
Oh yeah,
collection,
something
something
like
like that.
that. Yeah, yeah. Um, I'm trying to see. They have so many of these like documentary series. They all look bootleg. So I haven't watched any, but um, there are a couple of since we're doing our Halloween special next week, I'm really looking at what's in those libraries. Near Dark is something that I heard about recently. It's like a vampire movie from the 80s that I want to
That's
check out.
that's an excellent movie, man. True hidden gem.
You saw it?
Really?
I saw it a long time ago, and I've been meaning to rewatch it because that one's up there. That's all I'm saying. That one's up there on the rating scale.
I've been starting my Halloween run. I started a couple weeks ago when I told you guys about Freaky. Um, what else did I watch?
Freaky?
Yeah, that one I told you about Vince Vaughn.
Oh yeah. Oh the like Freaky Friday
Yeah,
horror
you mentioned
twist
that
thing.
one.
Yeah, and Vince Vaughn is like the serial killer. That one was really good. Happy Death Day.
Yep.
The Babysitter that's on Netflix.
The Babysitter.
That
I
one
don't
was
know
good.
that one.
That's with that chick Hugh something Weaving. She
No.
was in like Up Next or something like that. She's in a couple horror movies. She's becoming like a scream girl. It
Okay.
was good. Babysitter was pretty good. And I watched like an old classic. Oh man, I can't think of it right now.
You went to the movies, you said, right?
Been
You went.
keeping busy.
I went to the movies for Animation Corner, so I saw Transformers 1 and I saw The Wild Robot. Just this weekend, I saw The Wild Robot.
Was it as good as everyone says it is?
I read the books with my daughter, and she was kind of upset that they didn't match out to like how the books played out. But I was like, that's how they do it. The
Damn.
books have a lot of time to establish like plot and get into things deep, and then the movie's got to cover a lot of ground, in a short period. But the movie, I think they did pretty good. They just changed a couple things. It's like it's never gonna be perfect with a movie book, but it was pretty good. It was like it was definitely a tearjerker. Transformers 1 was like real good.
I heard that was good, and I'm like, how? I
Yeah,
don't get it.
people, I hate it because they use it so much, but they're like, oh, it's a Spider-Verse of Transformers. But it kind of was, man. It made you feel like, oh, so this is where Optimus and Megatron came from. This is where I love those stories where it's like, you know, big enemies started out as like friends,
Hmm.
like arch enemies like Lex Luthor and Superman. Like they did on Smallville. They started out as friends. They were really good friends. And then little by little, you see that deteriorate and that story play out. And they kind of did that with Transformers 1. It was really good.
I like I like getting those surprises. That happened with me, Pedro. I don't know if you remember last year when I came on and I was like, yo, I just saw Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
And that movie had me dying, bro. It was so funny.
That movie
And
surprised a lot of people.
it surprised a lot of people.
The
It
audience
looked
can
trash.
check back on that episode we did on that. That was a good one. If you
That was a good one.
look back to last season.
But those movies, you see the trailer and it's like, okay, this is not for me. This looks corny. And then you hear the reviews are pretty good. And then I ended up seeing it, like, I don't know, a couple weeks or months later, and I loved it. But let's get into it. Let's get into the show. Let's get into I just want to talk about Penguin real quick, just because last week we talked about the premiere. There was some sort of back and forth and different opinions on the show. Pedro, you weren't really feeling it because it wasn't gritty and grimy enough. How are you feeling about the show now? I know you didn't watch last night's, but you saw the second one.
Yeah, after watching the second episode, I thought the second episode was much better than the premiere pilot episode. Brought the show down, I think, to me, to a little more realistic level. And yeah, I thought it was a good episode. So, I'm interested in watching the next one.
Yeah, I think I agree 100%. And I was surprised. Well, not surprised, but everyone was praising, obviously Penguin, but the actress. And I know we had trouble with her name last week, and I already forgot it. But I thought she stepped up even more in episode 2. I thought she was so impressive. And I agree with you. The show kind of settled after that first episode. Like they included a lot in there in the setup, but the show certainly settled now. Episode 3 also feels very singular. Obviously part of a big world, but it feels singular in terms of it's just telling one story here. Well, actually, it's telling 2, but it does it in a really smooth way. It's really doing a good job of building this world and fleshing out these characters.
It was Christine Milioti.
Yeah.
And she was really good in episode 3, and it looks like she has a standalone type episode that does a flashback of her getting sent to Arkham. Oh, yeah. Sorry, this was killing me because Scott's not here looking stuff up. So it was Jeepers Creepers. That's what I recently watched.
That's a good movie.
Oh,
yeah, that was a good horror movie. And what I was trying to say was The Babysitter. It's on Netflix, and it's Samara Weaving. And she was in Ready or Not. She was 3 Billboards Outside of Missouri. Mayhem. She was in a bunch of movies. She was in Scream 7. Sorry, no, 6. She was like in the beginning of Scream 6. So she's starting to be like a Scream Queen type. And she's pretty good. She's really good. Ready or Not was pretty good.
Those are all good movies, yeah.
Yeah.
Good lineup right there.
Sorry, I have to get my Scott on real quick. Let's search some stuff up.
Paul, you mentioned earlier on the text chat that you did end up seeing Joker this weekend. It's getting a ton of heat. It's getting a ton of heat online and a ton of disrespect online. And I feel like it's becoming a trend just to like bag on the movie. And a lot of the reviews that I've read, or I've read a few that actually praise it, but a lot of the YouTube reviewers are really dunking on the movie. But I'm not seeing a ton of things that are specifically being pointed out as to like why the movie is bad, other than the singing. And look, if you're not into musicals, that just might be out for you, which is the case for me. I'm just not into musicals, so it's very hard. But what
the whole movie's a musical, or just certain parts of it?
The whole movie. I mean, they're not singing throughout the entire film, but it's like a musical. It's split between dialogue and singing.
Okay,
scenes.
So it's like
a lot of songs, though.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I know what you
mean. For me, I didn't think it was great, but I didn't think it deserves all the hate that it's getting. I think it was the next logical step in the movie. Like, if it pretty much follows up, what is it, a year or 2 after the Joker ends?
Mm-hmm.
I think the endings are decisive. Like, a lot of people are split on that. And just like they weren't expecting it to be such a musical, but they've been saying it all along. I hate the theories that I'm hearing, like Todd Phillips has given up like a middle finger to all the fans because he didn't want to do this and they forced him to do it. He got paid a lot of money. I don't think they forced him to do anything. And he had his own vision and he did it. And I think he put it out there. I think it was very unique to go this route, a musical. You got Lady Gaga in there. And it was just a way, before there was a lot of music in the first one too. He was dancing down the stairs. Like
Right.
for him, Joker, this was just a natural transition where he got into his psyche through music. That's how he accessed these memories, like where he tied into his feelings or whatever. And they just elaborated on it. I saw it as, it wasn't amazing. I don't think it was like a great movie. I thought the first one was pretty good. I didn't think it was like, to me, The Dark Knight, like nothing tops that. So I don't even think these came even close to that kind of level. But either one of them. But I don't think the second one is bad, deserving all this hate either.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it deserves all the hate that it's getting. I think some fans, the diehards, fanboys, whatever you want to call them, they are taking it personal. I listened to an interview with Joaquin Phoenix and Todd Phillips, just like talk. One of these, they go on a show and they talk about the film, they promote the film, and they talk about like how they came up with the idea. They both really wanted to do it. They love working together. Like, there's no conspiracy here. Like, hey, let's make a terrible movie and just dunk on everybody.
No way. Yeah, I
It's
hate hearing that.
it's a little bit silly, but the movie is really dark throughout, and it's really a hopeless kind of a film. There are some, you can argue that like parts of it don't really hit, they seem like they don't go anywhere. It's very bleak. And then, when you fill some of that space with these musical points, it can be a turn off. It can feel like the movie just stops and like, okay, now I have to listen to this song, and then it picks up again.
That's a major complaint I was hearing, that it kept breaking up the timing of the movie with these musicals. That really didn't really tell much of a story and just broke up the timing of the movie. Like the flow was just getting killed by the musicals. But you know what? I liked some of the musicals. I thought they were good. Lady Gaga, I think she did an amazing job. She's not like, you can't go like Margot Robbie, like, oh, that's
that would not work here at all.
No, she did her own thing, completely different.
Yeah.
And it worked for me. I thought it was like, okay. And Joaquin Phoenix, he always does an amazing job. I think there's a lot of teases to the Batman universe, like in certain ways that people didn't like. And I don't want to get into it now, but like, I think that was a complaint too.
Yeah. I think this is the type of movie where as I'm watching it, I was like, okay, I have to like separate. I have to sort of figure out or realize that the director is separating this character from his comic book origins. Essentially, like, he's using this character to tell a different story, and they just happens to be through Joker. But it could have been a character that he made up that was original, but he just used Joker here. And so all of that other comic book baggage just doesn't fit, right? So that's why I think a lot of people are like, this is not a good Joker movie. It's like, yeah, it's probably not, but he's still trying to tell a story through it. To me, it doesn't really work, but it's not a terrible movie. Like, it's an uncomfortable movie at times. It's a messed up movie for sure. It's not a bad movie, like in the way that people people want it to be. It's just not.
So it seems like a lot of the complaints are the fact that it's a musical instead of just a movie.
And the message. I think people feel that Todd Phillips is using this film to give a message to fanboys, which is
interesting.
Yeah, like, I'm not going to spoil it, but that's part of the hate too. Like, he turned on them because he gave him this gift of the Joker that was phenomenal, and
I'm interested now in finding out more about this conspiracy.
But see, to me, it's BS. Like, didn't the original Joker come out during COVID too, or was it like before?
No, that was way before that.
This was before,
way before
2019 or 18.
Yeah, it was like 2018.
Well,
at
I
least
thought it
two
was going to
years
speak to
before.
like, it spoke a lot to mental health, and I think it hit a chord with a lot of people because that was the big point with the Joker in the original one was the mental health, and he was going through this and seeing things that weren't really happening, and it was going through his eyes. You're seeing his world, but that's a lot of BS with the whole DC thing because they didn't play true to it either. They had a young Batman, like a little kid Batman.
In the
So this
first one.
in the first one, so this
Yeah.
couldn't have been the Joker. The timeline just didn't tie out, so it couldn't have been the Batman arch rival Joker that's played out in the
Yeah,
comic.
you got to forget all that DC timeline comic book. You got to all that
So
has to go out the window when you watch these films.
right there, these DC fans like should have known from the first one not to expect that now again in the second one. So like I don't know what
Yeah.
the complaint is about. It already happened the first one.
I think my own expectation, Pedro, you mind if I spoil 10%,
No, go ahead.
60%?
Spoiler alert button. Press the spoiler alert button.
Just a soft spoiler here. And I had this throughout the film. The movie's frustrating to watch. Again, if you don't like musicals. If you like musicals, I'm curious to know what your opinion is on the movie. But you always expect the Joker to become and come out as the villain and go off and fight Batman or blow up buildings, whatever. That never happens. And it's teased 2 or 3 times that the movie's finally breaking free and the Joker's finally free, running Gotham, running mayhem. That never happens. So there's this built up sense that, ultimately we're going to get here with the story. And Todd Phillips just like snatches that a couple of times subtly early on, but at the end in a very intentional way, a very final kind of way. And I think that frustrates you as not just in this movie, but I think in any kind of movie. He's stealing the reward that you sat down to sort of watch the movie for and follow the story for. That's taken from you at throughout, but especially at the end.
Yeah, essentially, you could even say it's quite the opposite. It's like a deconstruction of the Joker. It's never like a build-up of like a release of the Joker. It's like I'm sorry. It's like a breakdown of the Joker. Like just breaking him down. And a flip of roles. Again, a mild spoiler, a flip of roles between him and Harley, which was a very interesting take on it as well. Not the typical what you see their relationship as in the comics. It was more of a flip, and that was very interesting. But it was total deconstruction of the Joker. It was not a build-up and the pot's going to boil and it's going to explode. No, it was just systematically destroying him and like until he just it was interesting. It was a very interesting take on it.
Yeah, I'll say the last thing. The one scene that sticks with my mind is at the end of toward the end of the film when he's in the courthouse and Arthur Fleck denounces the Joker, right? He says, there is no Joker. It's just, it was me the whole time. It's Arthur the whole time. I committed all those crimes. And then there's an explosion. And he gets free and he gets rescued by the clown, like, by his super fans, those insane clown people. And they're like, you're free. We're going to get you out of here. We're going to raise hell in Gotham. And then when he realizes like who these guys were, he rejects them. He jumps out of their car and he runs to Harley. Like he rejects that whole ideology of Joker being a savior to anybody. He rejects all those people. And then ultimately Harley rejects him because he rejected the Joker. He rejected himself. And I thought that stuck with me because that was the scene where I was like, okay, now he's free. He will be the Joker. He will like take over Gotham. But he rejects everything. And he rejects everyone who loved him, everyone who cheered for him. And he becomes Arthur Fleck. He becomes nothing.
There was 2 key parts that I think just totally broke him. It was something that happened in the jail after he talked smack about the guards.
Yeah.
And so when they got him back in the jail, they did something to him. And I think that really broke him. And then the last final, hay on the camel's back was Gary.
That was such a scene, bro.
Yeah, dude, that was a really great scene. Gary played it amazing.
That was incredible.
That's what I mean. Like they all did a wonderful job. Joaquin Phoenix, the guy who plays Gary. I forgot what his name is. I'm not giving him credit, but he did an amazing.
Gary
That scene,
Puddles.
yeah, and that was the last one. That was what broke the camel's back. And after that, I think the Joker just like gave up, and he was like, "Nah, man, I'm not Joker. I'm Arthur Fleck. And that's it."
I wonder if what you just said, Bruno, if there's something deeper to look into with that, with like his clown followers, maybe like representing like the fanboys and like Joker giving a big FU to them, or
It's
just
something
denying,
to
not a
that.
big F, but like denying them. And, I wonder if there's something deeper there to look into, that like a message that's there.
I think, yeah, I agree with you. I don't know what the metaphors are, but certainly the Joker rejecting these followers that he embraced, and they embrace each other at the end of the first one when he goes to jail, like they're all celebrating him. And in this movie, the Joker, like it's been a few years, there's been a TV movie made about him, so he is a celebrity. He is by these people, they're like kind of like Trump supporters or like hardcore DC fans, whatever the incels, whatever metaphor or name you want to apply to them, they might represent. They are like the enemy of Todd Phillips in a way, and however these people are seeing the interpretation. But yeah, there's some conflict there.
Well, that goes back to that point about like the conspiracy that Todd Phillips did a big middle finger to the fans and to DC or whatever. That those clown supporters are basically the fans of the first Joker movie, and him portraying the Joker not wanting to be the Joker that they want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like that's the kind of like that's the message people are saying about Todd Phillips. And they said he did a similar thing with like The Hangover 3. He really didn't want to do The Hangover 3. The studio kind of forced him. So he did a bad job on Hangover 3, which I don't remember it being bad.
It was horrible.
It was really that bad.
I saw it. I was like,
I don't remember it, but I'm sure
remember
by part 3 it was like done.
Yeah. But also that's like any part 3 of any of those kind of movies. Like the jokes are so worn out by then. It's hard to save that stuff.
What they were saying, he basically did the same thing to this. He did that. He did it to Hangover 3, and he's doing it now to Joker Folie à Deux.
I might have to rewatch that trilogy to see this theory.
See the cracks on the wall.
Let me ask you guys a question though. Do you think because you're saying that the musical pieces kind of like split the movie up at like certain points where it sounded like the movie just should have kept flowing? Do you think if they removed the musical numbers that the movie would flow better as just a straight movie without the...
I think it would work.
Like if the scene before a musical piece would go straight into the scene after the musical piece, you remove the musical piece and just like if they made an alternate cut,
I know
and cut the musicals out, would you think that would make the movie better?
I would say like narratively, I don't think the music moves the story forward, but I think emotionally it does communicate how the characters are experiencing what they're currently going through and how those feelings are changing throughout the film.
Yeah, I don't think it would have changed the narrative overall. I think the story is going to be the story regardless if it's a musical or not. And the music was just like, we said before, it was like a conduit into his memories. It hit at key points when he was reflecting back. That was the other theory too.
Yeah.
Like Harley was us. So Harley was obsessed with the Joker, right? Just like like the fans of the first Joker movie were obsessed, and they wanted that Joker back. But then when Todd Phillips didn't give us the Joker that we really wanted, we lost interest. And the same thing happened with Harley and the Joker towards the end of the movie. So that was like another metaphor thrown in there. This movie had a lot of like deep things, man. Like, without going into too much spoilers, it had a lot of you could really dive into this movie about some stuff. There was even, this is in the trailer, so it's not spoiler, Harvey Dent.
Yeah, Harvey Dent is in it.
Yeah, and like his little key moment in the movie. And then the very end of the movie, what people, everyone's been talking about the end of the movie.
The end of the movie, I would never expect ever to happen. And there's two things. So we won't go, I don't want to spoil that because that is a treat to see. um, for the first time without any spoilers, I think. So we'll leave it there. Um, so yeah, I think the movie's getting piled on because people are mad that it's not a true it's not a direct sequel to part one in terms of like how that story is told, or maybe they don't like what happened to the Joker character or how he's portrayed. But it's by no means a bad film. The cinematography, the setup, like it's all, you know, highly well done. The writing is fantastic. Joaquin Phoenix is probably going to get nominated for another Oscar for this role. Like, the movie's going to be fine. Joaquin Phoenix and Todd Phillips' career are going to be fine because it is a good um it is a good showpiece. Like, it takes, even though the movie's not well received, it takes a high level of skill to pull this off. Um
I think it went into a perfectly natural progression. Look, he did what he did in the first movie, and now here's the repercussions. He went to
yeah.
jail, and now he's facing trial. And this would be the totally organic sequel to the first one. The one thing I gotta say that's negative is like, dude, I don't know where they put $200 million in this movie. Like, I just watched episode 3 of the Penguin, and they start off the episode showing like scenes from the Batman where the levee broke, and through the kid's perspective and about his family and all that. That was amazing. Like, how they put that in a TV show, it was cinematic. I look at the Joker, Folie à Deux, and I'm like, where's $200 million and what? In the explosion, and like where is
Yeah,
it? I don't
it's like
see
3
it.
locations the whole movie.
Yeah. So where the hell did they put all this money? They got to make so much money, like 400 million, just to make break even or something.
It just could be like the contract of the actors and director. I don't know.
Yeah,
Do
probably.
you guys, my last question, did this movie matter? Was it like, after watching this movie, do you think this movie was even necessary?
I never thought it was necessary from the start. I thought the first movie was complete. He does what he does. He goes to jail. Yeah, you can. There's always lingering questions after watching anything, but I thought I was good. I was very much good with Joker 1. So
The first movie it said it all. They left it on that, that final note, and I thought it was really well done. There was no real ambiguity in this one of like, well, did what we see really happen? As like we did in the first one, when all the revelations started happening in the first one. Do I think the second one was needed? No. Was it like satisfying to see how the Joker ended, I guess, or like where the movie ended off? I mean, it didn't really need a second one. It wasn't horrible, but it didn't need it. The first one said it all. I think the first one did it really good. Some movies just don't need sequels.
yeah, I agree. Okay, we'll leave it there. That went longer than expected, but I think it was good. That was a great convo. We'll jump ahead to the main topic today.
Wait, before you do, Pedro, you had brought up before real quick, McMahon.
Oh, true.
Just quick opinions about it, like.
I think it's a must watch. If you don't know anything about the story of this man, or about the story of how the WWE grew to be this mega monster, from just being like one of many wrestling promotions out there, you should definitely watch it, because there's more to it. The documentary series is more than just this guy's like life and biography and like what he ended up in recently. It's also kind of like gives you a short history of the WWF, which is now the WWE, and like all the key moments throughout like the decades that defined it. So
I know you like wrestling. Did you find this like satisfactory? Did you really enjoy it?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, I've already known all the stories because I'm a wrestling fan, and there's been videos here and there online and on YouTube that you could see all this stuff about. Vice, a lot of stuff was touched up on from the Vice Dark Side of the Ring series. But I think as just one cohesive like documentary series, it was good. It's really good.
Now, you guys saw that thing about McMahon, right? That he was willing to try to buy it. Do you think?
Yeah.
Do you think there was anything in there at all that that should have ignited him wanting to buy it. So it was never aired. Like they didn't touch on anything of like towards the end, just like the final, like whatever, maybe half an hour, 20 minutes
You're
about the
saying
sexual
you're saying that
allegations.
he wanted to buy this documentary from Netflix?
Yeah,
Oh,
so
I
it
didn't
never
know
see
that.
the yeah, it wouldn't see the light of day. He wanted to buy it.
I didn't know that. I wouldn't put it. I mean, it's believable because, um, if you see all the scandals that have happened throughout the decades with uh
But I didn't think it was
WWF, they
anything that we
all
didn't
have a
know.
script they follow. Like it's never touched upon. They never talk about this stuff like in their programming. It's kind of like scandals happen, they sweep them under the rug, and like nothing happens. Like Hulk Hogan had his scandal at that point, and like bam, a few years later, he's like back on TV, like nothing happened.
But I
Um,
don't think it was anything that we didn't know. Like, and I'm not I watch wrestling because my pops watches it, but I'm not like a huge wrestling fan. But I knew about a lot of this stuff already.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
just
No,
I
I mean
knew
it
it.
wasn't. It was
So
also, yeah, it was also shot, and the people were interviewed before
yeah.
the scandal broke, which is probably good because if it had happened afterwards, none of these people would have spoken. But that's just what they do, man. They hide the bad stuff and just show you like the shiny, go happy stuff on TV. Like
But I
the
wonder if it was
another
like manufactured hype because Netflix just did that deal for the Raw, like the $10 billion or
could
whatever.
be. It's
Could be
also
that, yeah.
it's also just hitting at the right time, right after the scandal broke. So maybe a lot of people tuned in wanting to know more about uh the sex scandal that
Yeah.
the accusations, but since this happened before, it's all they could do is just touch up on it lightly. And I like the way they kind of like sprinkled it throughout every episode, and then finally towards the end, like they got more detailed into it. Like I said before, I think what would have helped a lot is having uh maybe like the people that were affected by this, the accusers and stuff. If they could have gotten an interview, that would have made it maybe like groundbreaking. um but yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised, that if he tried to buy it and hide this. If you pay attention to like the WWE talent, um when they're on camera talking, they all kind of like sound the same. It's because they all have a script. They all owe everything to Vince McMahon, so they're never going to talk bad about him or the company. I'm sure a lot of the people interviewed, when they got presented with certain questions, they were just like, next question, not answering that, next question. So, but yeah, it's they erase history and then portray history the way they want it to be told. And if you watch their programming throughout the years, they even showed how like after the scandal broke, he like was gonna step down, and like that happened like over the weekend, and like the next episode of like Monday Night Raw, he was back out. He came
Mhm.
out. And like the same thing with the Chris Benoit after the murders happened. They like erased him from his history, never mentioned him, and like a few years later, or maybe not a few years later, but just recently, they brought all his stuff back. You can find all his matches. They mention him by name and stuff now. So
I think
they always bring stuff back.
one of the themes that came across pretty much every episode was how he would leverage things that are going on in real life and incorporate that into the story of the show. And the show was always a reflection of modern day reality, or maybe the ugly side of it. And another thing was that, and this came out on, I think it was episode 2 or 3, where the steroid scandal. One of the wrestlers said, in this business, we protect the business. And that's also something that, Pedro, to your point about like what they say or don't say on camera, I think that's that mentality. It's like we protect the business.
Yeah.
Because it's very singular business. It's WWE, and that's it. Occasionally there's another organization, but they're the big dog, and they protect themselves.
And it's ultimately all these people's livelihoods, not just the wrestling talent, but the writers and the promoters and like they're not going to shit on their industry and bring it down because that's going to hurt their pockets. and the way they make money and feed their families.
I guess I just didn't see it like I was expecting him to come off as a huge villain and like really bad.
You didn't
And
get that?
not
I
that
thought
what
he
he,
came off as like one of the biggest villains in like the history of humanity, bro.
I saw more as like he was the creator of this. This was his baby, and he was willing to do anything to keep it, protected.
Yes.
That's what
Yes.
I saw. Like, not that he didn't do despicable things, of course, but I didn't see him as like a villainous person, like an evil person. I saw him more like he just wanted to protect his baby. He was willing to do whatever it took to make sure his business succeeded. It wasn't about him. I never felt like at any moment it was about him, but it was about
Oh,
the business. It was always about WWE protecting it, making sure it succeeds.
yeah, but I
So
think
it's like,
he's a guy. His ego came through constantly. I feel like.
but he always
Um,
made himself look like an idiot in some of the all those fun times with like him and Stone Cold. He always made himself look horrible. So it wasn't like his ego where he had the script, things to make him look good. He was willing to look like an idiot. He was willing to look like the patsy, you
yeah,
know.
but it's easy to do that when you're the king of the world in that world,
Anything you
and
say goes,
you're
no matter what.
benefiting from that. Oh, people want to see Stone Cold hit me with a stunner or throw a beer in my face. Let's do it. I'm gonna get richer.
But see, I see certain people when they're competitive, they don't want that. They got to be number one. They got to like look at like you hear some of these stories with like Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger when we did that doc back then. They had it written. Vin Diesel had it written. The Rock has it written in their contracts that they will not lose a fight on film. It has to like end in a draw or whatever. But he was willing to like get spit on, made fun of, look like an idiot.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I don't know. I didn't see it like I
No,
don't know.
It's just,
he's an egomaniac. Don't let
yeah,
that fool you.
it's, I,
He's insane.
I think
He's
one thing
ruthless.
the documentary did well is it kind of showed like, as the progression of the different eras happened, how he got more and more like maniacal and like intertwined with the story. Like he started off just being one of the commentators, and then like once he started showing his face on screen and like becoming this character, he just like you said, became an egomaniac and just started doing stuff like he's cheating on his wife in the show, making out with women in front of his wife
Right.
while she's in a wheelchair. And it's like, well, like everything in, he's saying in one scene, he's saying everything in wrestling is based on reality and our culture. And then in the next, he's saying like, oh, nah, but that stuff with me, like, nah, that was just made up. That's just a character, but
Yeah.
everything that's come to light that he's done in real life, like all the villainous stuff he's done in real life, you just juxtapose that with what he did as that character, Mr. McMahon, and it's equal. It's the same thing, and yet he's right there, like sitting there giving this interview and denying that it is.
Right.
When it's like now that everything's come to light, it's like, bro, you were just playing yourself.
He's still denying it. Even with all the wrestlers, from Hulk Hogan to Triple H, they're all like, yeah, the guy you see on TV, that's basically Vince.
Yeah. There's like, there was a scene when they were saying like that's him to the teeth, and he's like,
Yeah.
he's saying no, and it's like, yeah, well, you were cheating on your wife, you were sexually, putting people in like these weird positions and doing stuff for favors and stuff, and like you played an asshole on TV, and that's how people describe you as a boss, and it's like,
that's funny because I saw it like I don't know. I'm probably gonna seem bad, but I saw him as like a dedicated like first one in, last one out, willing
but
to
he
die
is,
for it.
he
Like
is,
he found something that he was like amazing at,
but he is.
and he
Nobody's
happened to love
denying
it.
that. Nobody's denying that. We're just saying that there's this other like sinister side to this guy that he expressed as this character, but in reality, it was a reflection of who he actually is. And anybody that knows wrestling or wrestling characters understands that the best wrestling, the best wrestlers, the best wrestling characters are just like an exaggeration of who they actually are in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I didn't think about it that way.
Two final notes from me. The homie Bruce Pritchard is Brother Love, if you remember Brother Love.
Yeah, he was Brother Love. He was like all
Uh,
red and shiny back then.
Yeah, he looks great. And then just McMahon just like cannot take a stunner, man. That always bothered me. Like he cannot sell the Stone Cold Stunner.
He can never sell it as good as other people.
Nah, I just
That was some of my favorite, man. Stone Cold and Vince, like their like back and forths was amazing.
yeah, attitude era, man. Okay, let's move on to our main topic. Today we're running long, but Salem's Lot. I don't know how much we'll have to say about this film. Directed by Gary Doberman. He directed the Annabelle Comes Home horror movie. He also wrote a couple of other horror movies. He wrote It and It Chapter 2. It was fantastic. Chapter 2, not so much. It's a adaptation of a Stephen King novel, Salem's Lot. I think this is the third adaptation. And it recently came out Friday or Thursday on Max. Just a quick.
I hate to leave off on this note on the pod with this movie because I just was not entertained.
No,
I saw one. There was a really cool show that really did the vampires well that I liked a lot, and it was by Mike Flanagan. He did a whole bunch of like Netflix shows.
Oh yeah,
and it was Midnight Mass.
Midnight Mass, yeah.
And I thought that was a very That's kind of like what I wanted from the Watchers. I wanted that, like fallen angel type of story. That's what I wanted, and he did it so well in Midnight Mass. I really enjoyed that series on Netflix. And this
I need to finish
was
watching
not
that.
it.
I started watching the first one.
Midnight
I
Mass
really liked it.
really
I
good.
completely forgot about it because
I like you want horror stuff for for the spooky season right now for October.
Yeah.
Mike Flanagan's stuff on Netflix, man, all of it it's really hard. It's good.
And I give you one hot take: Midnight Mass is the only good thing he's ever done.
No,
what? everything else is not good. I know that's not a popular opinion. But so just back to Salem's Lot, I can feel there's not a lot of love for this film, but the story is pretty simple. Ben Mears, who's a writer, he comes back to Jerusalem's Lot, where it's his childhood home, and then they discover that the town is being preyed upon by vampires, and then he and a couple other folks from the town sort of fight off the vampires. That's a very disrespectful description of the book, but that's a very simple explanation of the film. I'm a big Stephen King fan. I always give his stuff a shot. I haven't read a ton of his books, but I always like his adaptations, I guess. I always give them a chance.
they always translate into good movies most of the time.
Yeah, they're either
Almost all the
good
time.
or sometimes they're just really bad, but they're at least interesting. So I felt this movie was pretty basic, pretty disappointing, extremely straightforward. I think last week, Pedro, you made a point of you made a point of saying that the Penguin was like every scene just leads to another scene just to get to the next scene, and this is literally what this movie is in its purest form. There's nothing else happening here. They're just getting from scene to scene just to get to the end. Like, what did you guys think, like, the first 10, 15 minutes into this?
I was definitely reeled in the first 10 to 15 minutes. I like the look of the movie. Mm-hmm. I was really glad when I started watching it that it took place in the 70s.
Yep.
And it's stuck to like the original movie, and it's stuck to like probably
you just checking all the boxes of stuff that I liked.
Yeah. Like all those like 90s, 80s horror movies that they take place in that time right before it. So I like that they kept it like that, and they didn't try to remake the movie in like modern times, kind of like how the new Pet Sematary from a few years ago was. The original Pet Sematary took place in like the 50s or something, or like around that time, 50s, 60s, 70s, whatever. But then the remake was like modern. I'm glad they didn't do it with this one. And I also think it's important because in that whole Stephen King universe, I believe all these stories take place around the same time. You know, there's that theory that all his stories are like from the
Yeah,
same universe and stuff.
it's the multiverse. So I
Yeah,
didn't
there's the
read much
whole
of Stephen
multiverse.
King, but I have read the entire Dark Tower series, and that's where sort of a lot of this stuff happens.
That's
Yeah,
what I gotta check out next. Dark Tower. I never saw that movie. I heard it wasn't great, but I want to check it out.
It's total garbage.
What? Oh damn.
yeah. So I'm glad they kept it in that time frame. You know, I think it would have been way more boring if it was like to take place
contemporary.
in contemporary times, and like they try to like redo some stuff different and stuff. So I think another thing that made it really work was just the characters were quirky, and it gave it that
Yeah.
like 80s style horror movie, you know, where
Yeah,
like
didn't it feel
they
like they were
introduce a
pulled out of the
character.
90s or something?
Yeah, I like that. If you didn't, you know, if you're viewing this and you didn't catch that, you'd think it's like, oh man, this is bad acting, or like it's corny. But like this is how like, you know, 80s and 90s horror movies were. They just introduce a character that like you wouldn't see in any other scene, but they were just there to make the scene like weird and quirky. Like when Mears, the author, first gets to town and he goes into that real estate
Oh, the
office.
realtor guy.
Yeah, the realtor guy that comes out, like he was just like an over the top, like quirky character. So that's a bit of like, you know, old school like horror movie, like sprinkle magic in.
The only thing we didn't see traditionally, like you're right, we have these like one-off weird characters, but in horror movies, but then they end up getting killed, and like this dude just that's it.
Yeah,
He's just gone.
yeah. Yeah, so I liked it. I thought it was straightforward. I haven't seen the original one. I'm gonna watch it now to compare the two. Yeah, I didn't think it was anything like crazy, exciting or anything. It was straightforward. It was decent. I would give it like a 3 out of 5. I think it's an average movie. You know, if you're looking for a horror movie to watch it. And I'm sure if you're like part of the younger audience that hasn't experienced like the really like the golden era of horror movies, you know, like the 80s and some of these early 90s some horror movies, that I think you might like this.
You all know the Langoliers?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Love that one.
Langoliers up here, Salem's Lot.
Yeah.
I
That's
like
one of the
Langoliers.
better like Stephen King ones.
But those are all like those were the cool like made for TV movies or series or whatever because they can put the whole movie.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like I said, I think Midnight Mass did the vampire thing a lot better. It wasn't horrible. It definitely had some great moments. I thought it was so innovative the way they did the drive-in scene and the utilization of the cars and stuff. I thought that was really cool. I had never seen that before.
You mean how they use them as caskets essentially?
Yeah, at the end of the movie, and they pull up to the drive, and they're like, "What are all these?" First, they were like, "Where did all the cars go?" That was like
Yeah,
the
I thought
first,
that was
like,
pretty smart.
that was pretty cool. And then it led you to the drive-in, and then you saw where all the cars were and what they were using it for. That was very interesting. I like that a lot. I like the vampire. I always love the eyes. I always love when you could fill up a screen, fill up the scene, and you have something moving in the background that catches your eye, and you don't really know if you saw it or you didn't see it, and already it puts you on edge, like watching it, and you're like, whoa, what did I just see? Did I really see that? And then the eyes come in, or when they did a couple of good moves where the guy turns around and there's nobody in the room or there's nobody outside, and then he turns back around like a 360, like nonstop, and all of a sudden it's all populated by these vampires and stuff. Things like that, I thought that was really cool. But overall, like, the story was kind of boring. Like, you know, it was like you said. There was no build up. You had like these throwaway characters that came in for 1 second and then they were gone. And the story just kept moving. It kept moving. Like you didn't really have time to like digest anything or like, you know, for any lore build up or whatever. It was just like
no lore.
No lore, man.
That's one of the things
and I love
that bugged me the most. It's like the intro credits, they kind of like build up the town and they hype up this Marston house, but then there's nothing to it. There's
Yeah,
nothing special about the Marston house at all. It's just a house on the hill. Like they don't even go into it. And similarly with Barlow, the basically the main vampire, they don't even explore him. What's he doing? What does he want? He just gets killed at the end, like in the worst boss fight ever. Right? He doesn't. It
yeah.
was just a big. It
Where
never
did it come from?
led. It
Why did
never
it
led
start
to
this?
anything.
Yeah.
It was so much like, and even the cool like whole thing where it's like it was Jerusalem's lot or whatever,
Yeah.
and how the sign broke, and then you're really just left with Salem lot, and that's how this came from. Like I don't know, it just felt like there could have been so much more lore. Like you don't have to answer all the questions, but you have to make it known that there's questions to be asked. You need that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And this one, it was like, okay, I guess like we're
Well,
not gonna
they
get into
don't.
anything.
They try to develop the characters when he's on the at the drive-through with the girl, and they go to like the roof, and he asks her what's her story, and vice versa. And there's the story about him, like he grew up in his town, his parents died in a car crash, and then it never comes up again either. So, like, I don't really understand. Like, his character doesn't really have an arc. It's just like he shows up, vampires also show up, they fight him, and then he's just back exactly where he was. Uh,
And
more
no rhyme or
questions.
reason who turns and who doesn't turn. Like one kid got bit, he got killed, right?
Yeah.
Then another kid got bit and he got turned. And this other guy got bit, but he just died. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, all right, so what's the rules here? What's going on? How do you get part of the club?
I like how the guy who plays the teacher's name is Matt Burke. At one point, he's just like, "Oh yeah, they took Ralph because he was the sacrifice, but then they took this other guy just to turn him." I'm like, "How do you know that? How would anyone even know that?" Like, I know that because I watched it, but how does he know that? So things
Even the
like
scene
that
with
that made no sense.
the priest and the cross. Like one scene, they got like two pieces of like sticks that they just tied together and made a cross, and it was blowing people away like 30 feet. Then the priest comes with like an actual crucifix, and the guy's like, "Oh, it doesn't work." Like, what do you mean? What happened?
Yeah. So that's a scene in the book where like the book is much deeper and it's much richer. So a lot of fans are mad with how they played the priest because the priest actually the reason it doesn't work is because he's supposed to be an alcoholic and who's struggling with his faith. So his faith, when he pulls out the cross, it fails him. So it doesn't work. But they failed to do that in the movie, so it just looks stupid.
It was a throwaway line. He's like, "Oh, it's so sad to see someone lose his faith," and then the cross like stops going. I'm like, "What? What happened right now?"
And they say, oh, when they're at the drive-through, the girl goes, "Oh yeah, that's Father Callahan. He's an alcoholic," and he's just like in the front seat, fucking drinking Old E or whatever. Like, just
Yeah,
random.
that's definitely poor character development, man. You have no like, I don't know. I like the actor, the main actor, Ben Meyers. He was
That's
he
the
was
son
in
of that's the son of the guy who was in the Penn State who played the president. What's his name? Bill Pullman.
No way.
That's his
That's his
son?
son?
That's the son. The guy who gives the speech.
Oh wow.
He looks familiar. He looked familiar when I watched. I didn't know if I had seen that actor in another movie
He was
recently,
in
but
The
he definitely looks
Range
familiar.
on Prime. That's what it was, The Range. That
Oh,
sci-fi.
yeah, Outer Range. I saw him in Top Gun Maverick. Okay. Yeah, he's
Her,
done
I
a
don't know
couple.
where she was from.
She's
The
from the
the love.
90s, bro. I don't know where
Oh really?
she.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know where she came from. She might be a
Yeah.
vampire. I don't even know.
Were there some people? Man, I haven't watched the original, but I feel like some of the older actors in the movie might have been from the original, or is that it? Like the
Well,
girl's mom? What was
so
the
there's
character's name?
I don't
Her
think it's
mom seemed like I've definitely seen
oh
her in a lot of stuff from back in the day.
yo, why did her mom hate that guy so much?
There was no explanation as to why she hated him. Even try to like shoot him or something, didn't she? At the end, towards the
Yeah,
end.
yeah. She really hated that guy. Didn't really connect the dots on that one. I know there's another character
What
that
about
they
the kid? Oh, sorry.
yeah, I was just gonna say there's another character like that she had a crush on or had a crush on her, but that never materialized. It was just mentioned.
Yeah, the
Um,
priest mentions that it's a small town. Word gets around that he's mad because he actually liked the girl. Um,
yeah. So they're in the back of a pickup. I don't know where they're coming from. I don't even know how they got in this pickup, but this dude is just mean mugging
yeah, that was
the
a
Ben
weird.
Mears character.
That was a
And then he's just gone.
Yeah, that was a jarring cut. It kind of just like cut to them coming back in the back of the pickup truck, and you're like, what's going on? And then they kind of like sort of just say that they were looking for this missing kid, but you wouldn't have known that at, at the start of that scene.
So I heard that the original cut, this movie was in like some production trouble, apparently. And I heard the original cut was 3 hours. So the first two versions or iterations of this novel were miniseries. They were like over 3 hours long to tell the story. This movie was condensed to like an hour and a half. So I think to your point, Pedro, I think they cut a lot of scenes out. That's why some of these characters and these things just seem random and there's not these connections here.
Makes sense for the pacing issues too. Like, felt like it flew by. Like you didn't even know what the hell was going on. Do you know that kid, the kid that was digging the graves?
Yeah, Mike.
He was the kid in Gladiator. He was the son in Gladiator, like the oh
The
my
first
gosh,
Gladiator?
Caesar's like nephew or whatever. Yeah, the first Gladiator, and he was also in Unbreakable. This is him growing up
Oh,
now. Yeah, I didn't
Spencer
realize.
Treat Clark.
I knew he looked so familiar. I know the other guy, Richard or whatever, the guy that was helping the vampire. He was from like Game of Thrones, and then
Yeah.
William Sadler's been in a lot of stuff.
Yo, he was in Mystic River too. That movie's incredible.
The kid was actually really good. I like uh, the kid that survives at the end, Mark or whatever.
Petrie?
Yeah,
Mark Petrie?
he was good. I thought he was like that gave me like Stranger Things, Goonies vibe with the kid like just taking it on his own. His dad just got, you know, done.
Dude, that scene to me was so frustrating because they're like,
That kid was so brave. He was awesome. I liked him. He was like he made the other kids all look like wimps and
And he
cowards. He
made
was
a
just
promise to his friend and he kept it and he like
yeah,
he
he was
he
like
was hardcore.
he was even
yeah.
like ordering Ben Mears around in some at some points. Like,
Yeah, I was
do
like,
this,
who is
let's
this
do that.
kid?
Like, yo, this kid's in control.
He was
In
like the main
control the whole
character.
time, man. He was
He was the
awesome.
alpha. Yeah, he's
He
like,
was a shining star of this movie to me anyway. I think he was really good. That and the drive-in scene.
yeah. And the scene where, oh, there's a scene where they all catch fire because again, like this kid, Matt Petrie, he collapses the theater screen by just driving through all
Yeah.
the foundation of it, exposing the sun, and all these vampires catch fire.
That
Sick.
was the culmination of the drive-in scene. He took the car
Yeah.
and he took out all the support studs from the to me I was like, yo, this is for real because I've gone to drive-ins and they use these like these plywoods, 8x4 pieces of plywood, and they
Hold it
just
up.
build it. No, they built it's all that's what the screen is. They
Oh,
just take these huge 8x4 foot pieces of plywood, paint it white, and then they just put it on a frame. And this kid took out the supports of the car, and I was like, oh, what is he gonna do? He's gonna crush all the vampires now? What about the five that are on top of this guy? How is he gonna save them? But no, he thought ahead. He
yeah.
thought like he was playing chess and I was playing checkers.
This was not
He,
his first vampire movie.
no, man. He took it out and it was just to let the sun come through to explode all the vampires. I was like, oh wow. That scene had me. Like that scene made like the whole movie worth it to me. That was really
That was a
cool. A
good
lot of
scene.
good parts.
And he also ran over that lady who was trying to shoot Ben Mears with the shotgun. Um,
Yeah, what was she was for her daughter? She was trying to protect her dead daughter or something? I don't
no,
know.
so
That
what
part.
happened? So this kid again, Mark Petrie, respect. He
Yeah,
go-
it's everywhere.
he goes to Barlow's house to kill Barlow. Like doesn't even say anything. He just goes there on his own. But he meets what's his name, Stryker or Straker, Barlow's like familiar,
Oh yeah.
and he just kills him. He one shots him with a golf club to the face, kills him. So then Barlow makes the girl's Susan's mom his new familiar. So basically,
Oh.
and then he kills her too. This guy, he got the most kills in the whole movie, I think.
I must have been mixing my key lime at that point. I missed that part right there.
he goes to the house, and he actually gets captured. They don't kill him for some reason, but then he ends up escaping, killing everybody. There was another cool scene after like all the vampires are on fire. Ben Mears, he's like hiding from the lady with the shotgun behind the car, and one of the vampires, like full ablaze, just like is crawling toward him. Like they look sick. Really,
I think
cool
they did the
effects.
vampire, like the effects, like the main vampire. I think it looked pretty cool in the eyes. I always get freaked out when I see like the cat reflective eyes in the night, and they did that
Yeah,
with the vampire. I mean, we've seen it before. It's not anything new, but I think they just did a really good job showing that. I liked how they did that.
and
And the
when the
kid, oh,
go ahead, you're gonna say the same thing. Yeah, go ahead.
the son from Homeland from oh my gosh, Homelander's son was in this movie too. He was that kid that got turned.
Oh, really?
That was Homelander's son from The Boys.
I was gonna say when he comes to the window at night,
Oh yeah,
like
that was him. That was the Homelander's
very
son.
creepy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they did some good things.
one thing that I just wanted to point out is apparently there was a made-for-TV miniseries in 2004 for Salem's
Yep,
Lot, and it stars Rob Lowe. I
Greasy
do
Rob
not
Lowe.
remember that. It's apparently it was on TNT.
Damn, Rob
Um,
Lowe.
so they did make a series out of it, and like we're saying, if there's a lot more to the story and stuff that's missing from this one movie, like could have definitely worked as like a Netflix series or like how everything turns into a series nowadays.
Well, like Bruno said before, this movie was in production hell for a minute.
Yeah,
They were trying to they were at first a while back. I think they had finished this a while back. They were trying to get theatrical release, and then it was just having a lot of resistance getting it out there. So then they ended up
Yeah,
ultimately streaming it. But for a stream, hey, it was cool. It
I,
wasn't
I,
like
I yeah, I think it fits direct to streaming uh,
yeah.
category. There was also the original came out in 1979. There's also a sequel in 1987 called The Return to Salem's Lot.
yeah. I wonder if Stephen King had anything to do with that one. I might. I was thinking
He's
about going
credited
back
as a
to watch.
writer. He's credited as a
Oh,
writer on IMDb. So either he's credited as a writer because it's based on book he wrote, maybe he wrote the sequel, or maybe he just wrote the sequel, the movie sequel.
yeah,
But
maybe.
he's credited as a writer, and the director is also one of the writers on it.
I might.
But for
I might mess around and rewatch this and watch this 2004 version with Rob Lowe. It's also got Donald Sutherland.
Yeah, but it's a TV mini series, so I wonder where it might be a little difficult to find.
Yeah, I know the original, the 79 one, that's on Max.
Yeah,
But this
this
one, yeah, I
one
don't know.
looks like it aired on TNT, so stuff that aired on TV from that era is kind of difficult to find because
This was on TNT. It was right after Monday Nitro. Monday Nitro.
1998, yeah. Monday Nitro was like in its second to, or yeah, almost like 2 years from dissolving and being bought out by the McMahons.
But I don't think this would even been my top 10 vampire movies. I just recently watched 30 Days of Night. That movie was dope. Lost Boys.
Yeah,
What
this
We
is
Do in the
it. Yeah, this
Shadows.
is. I don't think this is.
No, this is
This
not.
isn't
It's
up
Pretty
not
there.
up
top
there.
10.
No, no, it's not. Do you think this movie would have felt differently if you guys watched it in theater instead of home?
Nah,
No.
I might have been a little pissed.
It's not scary, right? There's a
I
couple of
mean,
Nah.
scenes.
if I would have watched this in the movie theaters, I wouldn't have been walking around and doing other stuff while watching this movie. So I would have
Right.
focused more on it. So I might have enjoyed more of like the thrills and like the cheap thrills and like the deaths and stuff. So
That
maybe
I
I would have
totally
enjoyed
agree.
it a little more, but I think I'm just looking at this movie as what it is, just like a basic, straightforward, straight to streaming horror movie, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
You know what was good too that just came out? It's on the Peacock. It's Annabelle. It was like vampire
The doll?
Dracula's daughter.
That's the same. Hold up.
That's where they put a group together to like rob a house, kidnap a girl, and they didn't know the girl they were kidnapping ended up being Dracula's daughter. And then she
Oh,
flips a script on him. I think it was
yeah, they
Abigail or something
have
like
they
that.
have something. Yeah, they have.
Annabelle is about the doll.
No,
Annabelle is
not
the doll.
Annabelle.
I think you're right. I think it is Abigail.
Abigail probably
Uh,
or something like that.
Looking it up right now.
Yeah, and Annabelle's that
Abigail
doll, man.
2024. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
this. Yeah, yeah.
That was a
yeah,
good film. I like this one.
yeah,
Abigail
they
was pretty good.
promoted it a lot. I forgot about it. I actually wanted to watch this.
Yeah, it's on the
Yeah,
Peacock.
it's supposed to be good. You saw it, Paul?
Yeah, I liked it. It was like, it was like get a group together. It had that kid before he passed away too. The
Ooh.
kid that was on Euphoria. He
Oh,
passed
he's
away
in
from
it?
like, yeah,
Oh,
he's in
yeah.
it.
Angus Cloud.
They got the girl from Scream in it. It was like the cast was pretty good. Um, and the movie was it was interesting. It was like a ragtag group thrown together to do like a heist, but the heist ended up being a kidnapping. And then they thought they had her locked up in the house. Even Esposito's in it.
Giancarlo Esposito. I'm saying
Yeah,
these guys,
he's in it
guys in
too.
everything.
I'm telling you, man, if you get a chance, check out this movie over the weekend.
Yeah,
Pretty good.
they've been promoting it a lot on their platform. It's like always on the front page, and every once in a while, at least like once or twice a year, Peacock drops something pretty good.
It just popped in my head because I was thinking, like,
Yeah.
what's some vampire movies I watched recently? Like to try to compare it. So this I would probably give like a 2 on my scale, man. I'd probably give it a 2 out of 5.
Yeah, I'll probably give it like a 2.5.
You
Just
guys are
it didn't
lowballing.
hit.
I'm the highest rating with a 3 out of 5.
Yeah.
Gotta
It just
get
didn't.
with those 5s.
Fair, fair.
All right. Any final thoughts on Salem's Lot? Should we leave it there?
Yeah. Oh, I did see Speak No Evil.
Oh, you
And that
did?
yeah, it was okay.
Yeah.
A lot of like plot holes where I was like, oh, this would not happen.
Okay. All right. Next week we have our Halloween special.
Big
We're gonna
Halloween special.
we're gonna do we're gonna do a movie monster draft. It's gonna be our first movie draft, so tune in for that.
Can't wait for that one.
We'll be picking our favorite movies in favorite monsters category, and we'll be attributing certain points to those picks and see who the winner is. But Scott will be back. Paul, Pedro, thank you for joining. This was a really good, fun conversation.
Good
All right.
talking, fellas.
Keep them coming October.